All right, hello and welcome to the weekend. I'm not a DC insider, not even friends with one. I'm someone else, and this week I wrote an actual script. Now, before we begin this week, we quickly have some more election recap to do. That's finally over now that the races for the House have pretty much all been called. And really, the news for this is that over this past week, it was finally called that enough races were called for the House that it is now known for a fact that the GOP will, in fact, retain control of the House. And everything I said last week holds true, right? You're going to have control of presidency, Senate, and House. Don't botch it, right? None of this infighting stuff. None of this, muddling about on who's going to be the Speaker of the House. The stuff for the Senate majority, that's actually been solved really easily. Senator Thune was chosen quite rapidly. So it's looking like the Republicans are getting their act together as a unit. So hopefully they continue that trend and don't blow it. And that's basically all the actual recap for the results of the election themselves that we have to go over still from last time, because before it wasn't called, now it is. And it's a slim majority still, by the way, for the House. It's nothing, anything too dramatic of a change. Some races still haven't been called. Right now, as far as I know, only the Republicans only have 219 seats confirmed. And there's still like 4 more seats up for grabs. At least 2 the Republicans have a lead in. The one for Alaska, and then one of the ones in California, last I checked. But, it is confirmed that at least the Republicans will have a majority. How slim or how not slim, I guess the majority is will be remain to be seen. But anyways, moving on. I also want to begin with something more fun that also kind of ties into last week, because last time I quickly mentioned and briefly the very entertaining initial reactions of the left losing their albeit non-existent minds over the election results and how they were going in all various sorts of directions. Well, over the weekend, 2 trends did emerge, and the left has been running now for a while on abortion and reproductive issues. That's such a huge issue for them. And naturally, this prompted 2 trends that aren't new per se, more like they resurfaced again as a response to their losing the election. And they are vowing to, if you can believe it, and maybe you can guess what it is, because they've vowed this vengeance before, to stop sleeping around with men. That's right, they're going with old reliable celibacy or abstinence, whatever you want to call it. And it's funny because every time they do this strategy of like, we're just not going to sleep with the men. No more sex for you. You evil patriarchy. Right? Every time they do it, it's funny to me for 2 reasons. The first is like, that's kind of the whole point. Like that's the answer that we on the right kind of tend to offer you anyways. It's like, maybe if you didn't go around sleeping with men, right, willy-nilly, you wouldn't need to worry about getting abortions because you can't actually afford to have kids in your life or whatever, right? You wouldn't have to worry about that so damn much if you just didn't sleep around so much, you whores, okay? And then it's even more funny because they say that they won't sleep around anymore and all that, but it makes you wonder, right? You look at these people and you go, right, you just find it very ironic, like, because you look at them and you go, who were you even sleeping with anyways? Like, there was actually someone willing to sleep with you? Like, you're like, all of them are fat, just generally ugly, physically and mentally, right? And they're just complete lunatics. And all they are, these people are just living embodiments of red flags, like communist red flag, like little hammers and sickles and stars everywhere on these red flags. And then to go along with this, there was another trend from these same women, by the way, who somehow, talk about, they're not going to sleep around, even though I doubt they were, saying things to do to avoid when pregnant, because these things would heighten the chance of a miscarriage. So these same women, these same ugly women who aren't actually sleeping around with anyone, are then also telling people, what not to do when pregnant because it would lead to a miscarriage. Don't you dare do it. Wink, wink. Right? That's their strategy. And I just find it so ironic and hilarious. And then there actually was a third movement that I actually didn't put in the script, but I'm going to bring it up anyways, which was is it 4B or B4? I think it's 4B movement, which originated from South Korea, about like something about, whatever, about not, it's the same trend basically, right? Don't, they're not going to sleep around with men. Don't try to appeal to men, whatever, right? And that one was just they were shaving their heads, which is also not really a new idea. And also I kind of find it hilarious, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, they're shaving their heads for Bieber. Because I remember back in the day, like 10 years ago or whatever, there was this funny thing that was going on where the internet spread a lie that Justin Bieber had cancer, and a whole bunch of Bieber fans, women, were shaving their heads in solidarity. It just reminded me of that. It was hilarious. But anyways, all this thing about not sleeping around with men, not getting pregnant, and what to do if you are pregnant, to avoid the miscarriage, right? They're trying to do the reverse psychology thing, right? Don't you dare do it. But that doesn't solve the problem if you're already alive. But don't you worry, we can always turn to our worst and dimmest at the universities. And here is the University of Oregon fraternity life director, a very important position, telling you what he thinks you should do if you voted for Trump. Take a listen.
I'm crying. My sadness is over. My anger has set in. I am a very petty person, and I am very proud of that. Love it about myself, actually. And so I say this in the most disrespectful way possible. I don't care if you are my family. I don't care if you're my friend. I don't care if we've been friends our entire lives. You can literally go fuck yourself if you voted for Donald Trump. If you are so sad about your groceries being expensive, get a better fucking paying job. Do better in life. Get a fucking education. Do something. Because you are fucking stupid. And I hope you go jump off of a fucking bridge. I'm done crying. My sadness is over.
Right. So hopefully he now faces the ironic situation of not being able to afford his groceries after, hopefully, I would hope, I haven't seen any follow-up on this yet, but I would like to see that individual fired. And then, he can never find a job that allows him to afford his groceries, just to pour the salt that he can no longer afford into his wounds, that he would no longer be able to afford treatment for, because, again, being fired. Also, I just want to say, if you're going to do the old KYS insult like it's a video game chat, don't commit the cardinal sin of grammatical error when doing so. Because, and I quote, at the end, he said, "'Cause you're a fucking stupid." Obviously not grammatically correct, and as I said, that's basically a cardinal sin if you're going to do a video game chat-esque insults. And obviously, he's not a professional, either in the job that he's currently at or at online insults. And now I might not be a fraternity life director myself, but I have played a few video games in my day. So I am much more qualified at hurling obscene insults. And of course, this show is striving to be professional, and as such, I must deliver a top-tier professional-esque online shit talk back. And I'm just going to read it from the thing here. I like to believe that hypothetically, there is a parallel universe out there where you get T-boned by a drunk illegal immigrant frat student, and the glass from your glasses breaks and goes into your eyes, and the tiny pieces get into your bloodstream where they cut open your veins from the inside, so you bleed, but you only think that it's one of those periods that men can have, that Tim Walz is always going on about. So you stick a tampon up your worthless ass and die. Hypothetically speaking, of course. And that is how you would really do a insult online. Take notes if you really want to be truly insulting and obscene. That is just my professional opinion and assertion on that. And of course, that is in fact a hypothetical situation, as I alluded to, because Trump will be deporting them, those illegal immigrants. At least that's what we're going to be assuming and hoping for, and it's not that much of a stretch of an assumption, because of who Trump has been appointing into his new administration. Now, of course, this was all led off with Susie Wiles, her campaign manager, being named chief of staff, the first female chief of staff in U.S. history, even, because, of course, the Democrats, for some reason, couldn't manage to do that, and you don't see them celebrating that now, even though she is a woman, but she is a Republican, so they can't be bothered. Actually funny, like not almost every, but a lot of historical precedents on this kind of stuff was set by the Republicans. You just don't hear the Democrats celebrating. Like the first black female judge was a Republican or something, and like now the first female chief of staff is a Republican. Like, I don't know, seems like for some reason the Republicans are the ones that break these glass ceilings that the Democrats just can't be bothered to. But anyways, that aside, it did continue this week, leading off with former ICE director Tom Homan being selected as the potential new border czar. Which, first off, I'm thrilled that that's a new position now. Just border czar, like that's an official title now. That might be the one good thing to come from the Biden-Harris administration, is the position of border czar. Although, of course, we all know that they made it, but they gave it no meaning whatsoever. Now, if you're like me, since this guy was the director of ICE, which means he was one of those people in politics you may or may not have ever heard of up until this point, if you're looking to see how the role of border czar is potentially going to be like when the person in that position actually does stuff, and what Homan will be like as the czar, all you need to see is this one exchange with AOC.
Are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
Asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8.
And so, immediately, he just, lays into her, very straightforward. There's nothing really, questionable about his, how he feels about this task. It's going to be, he's going to do it very straightforward. And he also did an interview with 60 Minutes where he was asked about family separation during deportation, and if there was something like, if there was something that was happening like that, what could be done about it. And his response was to just deport the entire family, presumably together, which again is just so straightforward and to the point. Now, unfortunately, there is no clip of him being asked about like criminal felons who have crossed into the country illegally and have committed further crimes like murder, rape, and all those other things. What difficulties there are going to be with getting that done, and how he's going to go about doing it. And to which I would have hoped in this hypothetical situation that his answer would have been that there wouldn't be any difficulties in trying to catch and deport these criminals because they would be in body bags. And moving on, Trump basically just continued to select what is essentially as close to the Republican all-star team as you can possibly get. Of course, starting off with Elon Musk getting his Department of Government Efficiency, aka Doge, along with Vivek Ramaswamy. And now those are consulting positions, not actual government employee positions, because if they were actual government jobs, Elon would have to do essentially what Trump did when he became president, which is the first time, which is to kind of de-involve himself and kind of distance himself from the business that he has and and runs and owned, to kind of have not to get rid of that conflict of interest, I guess, if you will. So that's why Elon didn't actually get an official government job. It's just more of a consulting thing, so he could keep ownership and stake and whatever in all of his companies, SpaceX, X, Tesla, you name it. And then also the other big name from the campaign trail was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was also selected for the position of Health and Human Services, as was expected and offered to him on the campaign trail. Other names you probably heard of, more than likely, because there are also some big heavy hitters, which is Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, and that's been kind of one that the left has been going on about for some reason, because I don't know, they just think he's unqualified, even though he is I forget what rank he was in the army, or I forget, but it was pretty high, and he got like 2 bronze stars, like medals or whatever they are. So he's more than qualified. Also, it has to be someone who is a civilian. It can't be someone who's actually actively in the military right now. So as far as civilians go, that are out there that Trump could pick for, that's pick from. That's not exactly it's pretty good. That's a pretty good pick. Military man who got pretty high up there. In fact, I am going to do the thing that I should have done, and that is to actually get Mr. Hegseth's rank in the military that he achieved. I do apologize. Army National Guard, that's what it was. What was his, does it say his highest rank? Major. The rank of major in the United States Army. That's what it was. I knew it started with an M. I just didn't know if there was anything else other than, and there's more than one type of major, I think. I don't know. Anyways, point being, more than qualified, but the left has just been going on and on about him for some reason. And they've been going on about every pick, crying in their own ways for each one. And then there are others you might have only heard of once or twice during this previous election cycle in the news. One of them being Kristi Noem, which was the lady who had like 5 seconds of fame on the campaign trail when it was learned that she had old yellered a dog behind a barn once, and it's like, okay, sure. But she will be the secretary of the DHS. And then also another big one that wasn't really in the public eye on the campaign trail or throughout the whole cycle, but is now really everyone has their attention on him, is Representative Matt Gaetz, who in terms of his actual politics is very keen on the DOJ. Very, very blunt, no holds barred when it comes to that kind of stuff. But if you recall, I mentioned in every episode so far that the Republicans don't need to do infighting. I mentioned it this episode for things like that incident with the Speaker of the House. And Matt Gaetz was actually one of the ones who kind of incited that whole debacle in the first place. So he has some, there's mixed feelings about him within the Republican Party for both that, and then also he is being investigated right now by the House Ethics Committee, or Committee on Ethics, for alleged sexual misconduct, legal drug use, among other things, on like some yacht party in international waters. But that's also something that's being a blemish, and combine that with the the whole causing infighting with the Speaker of the House thing. Remember, he does have all these picks have to get confirmed by the Senate, by the Republicans in the Senate, essentially, and that's more of the established Republican Party, and they're gonna remember all right. They're gonna remember that he was one of the four or something representatives that started the whole thing in the House with the speakership, and then also there are eyes on him for the things that he's being investigated for by the House Committee on Ethics. So in terms of all the picks, that one is probably the most. Not probably. It is the most difficult one in terms of actually getting confirmed. And my theory is, and this is kind of a theory out there, that my theory is more of that these are all his first go picks, right? You're always going to start off with, and this is just a normal strategy that you would do with this, which is you're always going to shoot for the stars, right? You're gonna pick who it is you want, regardless. You're going to think that they're qualified if you're Trump, right? He's going to pick his, who he wants first and foremost, right? His pie in the sky, If it doesn't work out, whatever. This was the hopeful pick, right? More than anything. Then there's going to be some more realistic backups that he could presumably choose from, that he will, if someone like Matt Gaetz doesn't get confirmed. So I don't really see any worry about that. Was probably gonna my guess is most likely, out of all the ones that we've mentioned so far, Matt Gaetz won't be confirmed, and a more reasonable, actual true pick will be made that's probably going to get confirmed. And also, this is the theory that's kind of been floating around, is that this is kind of more of a decoy thing, where it's like, all the attention now goes onto this pick, and all the other picks just kind of slip on by because they're a little bit more under the radar now. That's kind of a theory that's out there. And then other appointments that are more so important to mention, not necessarily due to the political prominence of the individual selected, but more so the actual position being appointed. John Ratcliffe will be the CAA director. Mike Waltz will be National Security Advisor. Mike Huckabee as ambassador to Israel. Hold on, I'm going to butcher this name. Elise Stefanik as the ambassador to the UN. And Lee Zeldin will be in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency. And all of these, as far as I know, are fine, solid picks as far as any Republicans should be concerned. Of course, the left is losing their damn minds over all of them, which honestly is actually a good sign in favor of these people, that the left is freaking out about them. And now there is talk about not having to go through the Senate with these picks, by having the Congress go to recess and Trump making all these appointments as recess appointments. Now that's just a thing that's out there, and it's been clarified that that's not the initial, that's not the plan A. It's not the initial plan of the Republicans, as stated by the new Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Republicans have control of the Senate, so getting the votes to confirm should not be an issue. This idea of doing recess appointments is just like, a fail-safe option, if you will, if the Democrats continue to be lunatics and they try to obstruct the process of these confirmations in some way that isn't really allowed in the Senate. Like there was this one video of like something that happened in New Zealand where they start doing I forget what it's called, but it's like this warrior dance that happens before a rugby match or whatever, and they were doing it in their own parliament or something. And it's like, if the Democrats here started to do something like that, then you would do a recess and just be like, okay, we're not going to have you dancing on the floor of the Senate and screaming, so we're just going to call a recess and do this without you in the way doing that kind of stupid stuff. And so that's really what that is. But one Democrat who won't be stopping the confirmations is Joe Biden, because that guy, let me tell you, he was as thrilled as anyone to see Kamala lose. He was stoic. Whatever was left of his brain, he was able to remember that he hates that he was, stabbed in the back with this coup, and just wanted, Kamala to lose. Maybe not so much Trump to win, but he wanted Kamala to lose, and therefore, I guess by that process, Trump to win. And it was evident when Trump visited the White House to do that traditional meeting between the sitting president and the president-elect that they always do between those two people. And at that meeting, it was all smiles from Joey B. All smiles from him. And there is also a picture of Joe and Jill taken with Trump outside the White House, where it's, again, all smiles from the Bidens. If you didn't think that, Joey B had picked the side after the coup, you could maybe speculate, maybe he did, because it's almost like they were salty or something about the coup. And if you're as familiar with politics as I am, which is basically about normal average engagement, you might be wondering where some of the other heavy hitters are at this point, in terms of who has been selected and who hasn't been selected. Three big ones that come to my mind are Ron DeSantis, Ted Cruz, and Greg Abbott. Haven't been selected, and I'm just going to tell you now, and I learned this when I was looking into it, because I was like, why haven't these people been picked? DeSantis and Abbott cannot be picked just because they are governors of their respective states. So that's just, they're out of they can't be picked to begin with because of that. But Senator Ted Cruz, out of those three, is the one heavy hitter who has not gotten the call up, who actually can, and I don't know why. Maybe just that first round of selections just wasn't positions for Cruz that Trump felt were suitable for Senator Cruz. So that is the one heavy hitter who has yet to be named for a position that I can think of, except for one other person. And this is kind of more of a hopeful speculation on my end, because I just want to say that there is one more person I believe should have a spot lined up in the White House. That spot being the White House press secretary, and I am hoping so hard that Trump picks Peter Doocy for the role of press secretary, because that would be phenomenally hilarious. Like, oh my god, it would be unbelievable to have reporters from the left media having to ask Peter Doocy questions as the White House press secretary. That would be phenomenal. And but anyways, that's just me hoping. Back to more realistic stuff that's been going on. Elon, Vivek, and the Doge have already actually put out a list highlighting some of the wasteful spending by the government. And I just felt like it would be fun to look at the highlights. And all of these numbers are actually just cited from as coming from a report from Senator Rand Paul in 2023. And Rand Paul has actually been one of the Republicans in the Senate who has really been harping on this issue of trying to get government spending under control, manage the budget for a good number of years. But here's that list and some of the highlights on there. So and some of them, however, are just like portions of a larger. So the number might look absurdly large, like this first one where it's a Barbie doll photo used to get COVID PPP funds. It's just a portion of 800 billion. So not all that 800 billion went specifically to these Barbie doll photos, but some amount of money did. The next fun one is Fauci's monkey business on NIH's Monkey Island, whatever that is. Actually, I have no idea what that is, but there are There are actually more monkey-related things from that on here, which we'll get to in a second. The next one, actually, that I find, like, why is U.S. aid fund to boost Egyptian tourism. I'm not sure if that's tourism of Egyptians into the, right, like, getting Egyptians to visit the U.S., or if it's to boost the tourism industry in Egypt. Either way, $6 million just blown on that for whatever that would achieve. It probably didn't achieve anything. Cutting edge research on walking dogs in the summer. That total is actually unknown. Another one, cats on a treadmill studies funded by the NIH again. Dr. Fauci going at it. Government pays dead people, probably in tax refunds. I would assume that's what that is, to people who became deceased. In some like weird limbo period between like sending in their taxes and then getting tax refunds. I don't know. The Department of Defense's lobster tank. I guess they just have a lobster tank. You know, why not? And it's only $8,000 for a lobster tank. I don't know if that's much for a lobster tank, or if that's a bargain deal for a lobster tank. Either way, I don't know why the Department of Defense needs a lobster tank. So, yeah, I just get rid of that, I guess. And it's cool, but I don't know why they need that. Military equipment, tests on how to ruin stuff. You know, they basically stress tests is what I assume that is. I don't know if that's actually wasteful spending. Can't actually know from that title. What is it? Meth head monkeys. There it is. A portion of $12 million. You know, got to see what the monkeys do when they're on meth. And then another one from Dr. Fauci on his monkeys. Transgender surgery studies on the monkeys. Another $500,000. And then was called here whoopsie improper federal payments. Probably similar to the giving money to dead people thing. Except much more money that can't even be explained just by this little title that they gave it. And then another thing on monkeys, apparently this time with gambling, probably to see, you know, how well monkeys do at gambling compared to people. I don't know, but you know, it's all over the place with you know, especially the monkeys. You know, monkeys getting their bag from the U.S. government these days. And there are also some other things that I believe are actual things that the government has spent money on in the past, just maybe not in 2023, which is why it might not have been on that short list. But there was a study at some point to see if dogs make people happy, which, again, I don't remember when that happened. I just remember that being a thing, which is like, yes, dogs make people happy. And then another one was in 2021, the U.S. spent $150,000 to send 10 Koreans aged 15 to 30 from South Korea to Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks to learn about climate change activism. You know, super great use of $150,000, basically giving them a vacation to go to a few seminars to basically just plug their ears and not listen to it. At least I would hope they would have done. Really, they were just, you know, playing the government for suckers to get free vacations. In 2011, the University of California, Riverside was awarded a $198,000 grant to research whether or not social media programs such as Facebook, at the time Twitter, or LinkedIn, because that's apparently social media, makes people happy. Just super dumb stuff. I don't know why we're spending $200,000 on that. Moving on to other things that interest me. We are all familiar, again, with the liberal meltdowns, crying and screaming, and the threats of violence, threats of various violence and whatever forms of rebellion. But one that doesn't get talked about as much, that is as insane as the standard left is. There are always more insane leftists to their left, because some of them actually took the results of the election so badly that they actually commit murder. Now, there are a few cases of this, one of them being like a family in Minnesota. The dad shot up the family and then committed suicide, like homicide, suicide, murder thing. But one that's, that's just. But the one that was more interesting to me was this one from the Daily Mail reporting. Power lesbian Corey Burke murders father with an ice axe in election night meltdown at Seattle home. And in case you're wondering which of those alleged people is the Corey Burke in question, that was the one sitting down in the chair with the dark hair. The other one is her trans woman spouse, also known as a husband with extra steps, who was a pretend journalist at the Daily Beast and also a website called Them. So here is the actual story, as again reported by the Daily Mail. Corey Burke, age 33, allegedly struck, stabbed, and strangled her father, 67-year-old Timothy Burke, in a fatal attack at her $800,000 Seattle home on November 5th, the night of the election. Burke, a training manager at Jeff Bezos' rocket and spacecraft company, which is Blue Origin, confessed to killing her father after he refused to turn off the lights, according to charging documents seen by the Daily Mail, which is again reporting the story. And which, just to clear something up, again, we pointed out that this person worked for Blue Origin, and that might explain, if this is the kind of people that Jeff Bezos is hiring for his spacecraft company, that might have something to do why Elon Musk and SpaceX are significantly more ahead in that field than Blue Origin, because when you have training managers like this, you ain't getting trained to be successful. That's for sure. And the story continues. After emerging from the house with blood dripping down her face, she confessed to police that she, quote-unquote, freaked out, claiming that there was something important about Election Day. Burke reportedly told detectives that she knew she could not convince her father to keep the lights off, so went upstairs and retrieved the murder weapon. Now, the father, just to be clear, it's believed that he was, at 67 years old, he was starting to, he was struggling with mental decline and was housebound in his old age, so there's that. But anyways, she freaked out about not being able to keep the lights off, so she tripped her father, right, made him fall over, and then strangled him on the floor, presumably at least on the floor, before attacking him with the ice pickaxe. Burke then bit him and hit him several times in the head and side with the blunt and sharp ends, both ends of the ice pickaxe. Cops say his bloody body. I don't know why I read bloody, but it was probably bloody. His body was found in the basement. And all things aside, it's obviously this is the media's fault for raising the temperature, all that. And this is what happens when you do that. These people, these lunatics, go around and they kill people, their own families, because they just have it in them from being brainwashed by places like CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, whatever, that this is acceptable for them to do. And all that aside, because that's already covered, and I just went over that's what it is. What is it with communists and killing people with ice picks? Like, if you know your history, you may recall that Leon Trotsky, one of the leaders in the communist revolution in Russia, was killed in Mexico by an NKVD, which is by an NKVD assassin agent, which is the NKVD is the predecessor to the KBG, I believe, maybe, I don't know, something like that. But by an NKVD agent sent by Joseph Stalin himself. The weapon used to kill Leon Trotsky was an ice pick. So I don't know what it is with communist leftists having this weird thing with killing people with ice picks. So I don't know. Maybe they aren't lesbians. Maybe they aren't these pansexuals. Maybe they're icepick sexuals. Maybe that's a thing. That's maybe one of the letters in LGBTQI A B C D F G 1 2 3 plus minus sign whatever. The I would be icepick sexuals. That's just apparently a thing for the left, is they just have an icepick murder fetish. But moving on from that, all be kind of horrific, murder and stuff. There is never a bad time, however, to revel in American superiority. Although we just kind of saw something that kind of goes against that notion, but at least our superiority compared to the British. There's never a bad time to laugh at the British as Americans. Now, really, though, we shouldn't be laughing because this is serious. But we can find, the lunacy of it to be hilarious, while at the same time showing disgust. Because, as you may or may not have seen and known about, it is now relatively common for people in the UK to be arrested for posting messages on social media voicing their disapproval of leftist movements, ideas, and people and everything else, right? Just showing distaste for it, right? Just saying, I don't like that. I don't agree with that, right? That's something that can get you arrested now. Literally just saying something like that if you were in the UK. And a story has gone viral on X over the last 24 hours of showing a man getting arrested at 4 a.m., presumably from the timestamps of the posts surrounding it, at 4 a.m. Today, 4 a.m. local time, on today, Saturday, November the 16th. And why he is being arrested is because of this video from a little over a year ago of him saying that he doesn't like seeing so many Palestinian flags on one of the local streets in presumably his local area, his local town.
Come along Bethnal Green Road this morning, and this is the kind of shit that's going on. Yeah. So there's a look at this. Yeah, you see it? And then over here at this one, we've got this crap going on as well. Yeah. And then we come along to this pole here, and they've then done the same crap here as well. Look at this. Look. See this? This is what we're dealing with. This is no fucking on. And then up in this one here, you see that? Yeah. Same shit here as well. This is what we're dealing with. And these cunts over here on the top, look at this top, this lot. On the top, Ghana, Turkish restaurant. Yeah, look at this. Look. This is the kind of crap that we're dealing with. This is the kind of...
Now, aside from some of the crude language, which, if we're being honest, should have probably been more filled with vitriol than it was, if we're going to be honest, that deserves some more vitriol. If it was me, I'd be a little bit more angry. But nothing, there was nothing really wrong with it. There was nothing really wrong with the video. He didn't say anything at all. He just sees something that he doesn't like and says, I don't like it. What is this? And now just to go over it again, that video is from November 2nd of last year, so a little over a year ago. And last night, presumably last night, and over the past 24 hours, a video did surface of him, of that man recording the video, criticizing the flags, being arrested again at 4 a.m. local time in the UK, with the post containing that video being dated for November 15th, presumably that would be American time, so late at night here, early in the morning there. But what this shows is, it just makes you wonder, right? Obviously, this is all terrible and all that, and it's like we avoided that. Hopefully, we have avoided that for forever, but at least for the next 4 years with the results of this election here in the U.S. But it just kind of makes you wonder, how far are they willing to go? Looking for this stuff, because that was a year old at that point, right? The video was posted over a year ago, and they only arrested him, as far as I know, last night. So it's like, how far back into people's social media and just lives in general are they willing to go to arrest people that disagree with them? And, that's just a very worrying thing that has, emerged there as a trend. And, that's what the left will do. And the UK is basically, we've lost them at this point. Now another one that's kind of edging towards the brink is essentially the Texas of the UK, which is Australia. But apparently, maybe they found a limit to which they're willing to take this sort of encroachment of the left when it comes to Palestine, at least. And what was the straw that broke the kangaroo's back? Well, it turns out that there is this yearly celebration in which a store in Australia, as part of like festivities to ring in the holiday season, does a whole big unveiling of their Christmas window displays. Now, unfortunately, that festivity was canceled because of a planned demonstration protest by the left, organized against it by pro-Palestinian movements in Australia. And that festivity was supposed to happen tomorrow, but again, it was canceled. And because it was canceled, then the subsequent protest itself was canceled in turn. So it really is kind of a sad display from Australia, as they are actually quite left-leaning as a country, which is a shame, actually, because I've been there, and it's a beautiful place, right? The nature is great. Everything about the actual location itself is pretty nice. But, I wouldn't live there, personally speaking, because, first off, the economy there is worse than it is here. Their currency is less powerful than ours, and also, of course, the ruling policy and government there is something that I wouldn't agree with, so I wouldn't live there. But it is a nice place. But anyways, but it seems after this, the government of Victoria, which is the state in Australia in which this was happening, is going to kind of push through some new laws to address when protesters do this. They go too far in disrupting the unveiling of Christmas window displays. That's the line that apparently Australia has. Now, what this actually means is probably in a few months, maybe years, whatever this set of crackdown laws will be, they'll probably just use it on the right anyways, that the left will continue to get away with it and stuff like that. And, because this is what they do, a lot of times, both there and here in America, obviously we've been trying to trounce that out as a country, but also in places like the UK and Europe. A thing that the left will do is the extreme left, so people that are even to the left of them, of the politicians in power, will do something that sparks a more egregious outrage in the country, in the society. Then those Democrats in the government will, take actions against demonstrations similar to those that just caused that outrage. But what this means is that they will only apply it to people on the right who just are doing peaceful protests and whatever else, right? They'll only apply it to one side, do a double standard thing with it. And so that's probably what's actually going to happen with that. So Australia is still, as far as I'm concerned, heading towards the brink, but who knows, maybe this is the start of them shifting back to the right, along with the U.S. and places like Germany, places like France, even though that election got, turned into a coalition that led to the left ultimately winning there. But, the right was coming back there. But, hopefully, again, this is a turning point for Australia to join the broader global movement, going back towards sanity. That would leave places like the UK both as an island physically, but also ideologically. And with that, the episode is over. I just want to remind everyone that this is a weekend podcast, right? There are big week shows, in big week, during the week podcasts, but then during the weekend, right, you got to fill the void because all that's out there is the B team, doing weekend shows on television media. So this is, we're doing a week, an actual work week style thing here on the weekends. So we'll be back here tomorrow for another episode, just kind of going over whatever happens for the remainder of today, and also maybe some other things I didn't cover from this past week. So we'll be back with that tomorrow, and then we'll be back here every Saturday and Sunday for as long as I can make the show go, have time to do it and all that. So just a reminder of that, and I'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.